We totally understand the appeal of joining free online groups for hosting support. Because let's face it, hosting is isolating. It can be really lonely. However, there is some bad advice in these groups that can actually be toxic.
We're gonna go through some of the top ones we've found lately. No one is sharing helpful advice. We're using this opportunity to go in there, dig into it, and share solutions that actually help out. Hi, I'm Sarah Karakayan.
And I'm Annette Grant. And together we are
Thanks for visiting.
We've been hosting for well over a decade, welcomed tens of thousands of guests, and earned thousands of 5-star reviews.
Our portfolio continues to bring in over 1.5 million year over year, and supported not only by the industry's leading brands, but also some of the biggest media outlets.
And we're here to help you with your furnished rental.
All right, let's dig into this first one, Annette. Will you read it out loud for us?
Absolutely. Okay. What do you do when a guest brings a dog without permission? We accept dogs on a case-by-case basis only.
Case by case. All right.
We accept them. Well, they might not need to ask you if they could bring their dog. This might be a service animal. So my first thing is how do you know they brought a dog? Are you snooping on them? Are you watching your cameras like a hawk? So that's number one is how are you finding out that someone's bringing this dog?
And that's actually an important thing to note is if you do have cameras where you can see this dog and it's in a private area, not only may the online travel agency like Airbnb have an issue with that, but your insurer might also have an issue with that because privacy issues, everyone, they are a huge deal. These platforms will shut you down, even if it's temporarily, for having cameras in areas that are deemed private or areas that your guest has rented for that time period of the reservation. And then getting shut down aside, your insurance company might have an issue with it. So maybe check yourself first and make sure that where you saw this animal was in a place that you are allowed, whether it's the front of your property as they're approaching it. So ask yourself that first. And like Annette said, it is federal law. A service animal, that the individual that operates a service animal does not have to announce they're bringing it. Just like someone in a wheelchair doesn't have to announce they're coming to your property with a wheelchair if they don't want to. So that's a big question that you have to ask yourself before you take it any further. We want to equip you that if you do want to ask and clarify if that animal is a service animal, first of all, if it has the service animal harness or any sort of identifying marks, you can't ask because it is identifying itself as a service animal. If it doesn't have it, because it's at a vacation rental and they don't have the harness on, they don't have to, you can ask them 2 questions. I'm going to read it so that we can get it exactly as they are. Is the animal required because of a disability? And then what work or task has the animal been trained to perform? Those are the only 2 questions that you can ask. And honestly, when we do this training with our team, we ask ourselves, is it worth having this conversation with the guest? To what? To collect a small, pet fee over the grand scheme of things, because maybe now you've made things awkward, you've interrupted their vacation plans. Come to find out they are a service animal, I didn't have to disclose it, and now you've asked them and take them. So if it's happening all the time, you might want to be a bit more descriptive about your pet policies. And then I would always say, of course, if your animal's a service animal, let us know if we can help in any way, shape, or form make your stay as enjoyable as possible, to let them know that you recognize that they wouldn't have to disclose that.
And of course, there might be an issue. Like the dog might be causing issues on your property, maybe to neighbors. So of course, if that is the case, if there is an issue with the animal, you do need to obviously reach out to the guest, get that taken care of, and see how that's going to go down from there, depending on what those issues are with the dog.
But so many of the comments on this comment were about how no one's telling guests, no one's telling hosts anymore about them bringing pets. And the way this person posed the question too, I just fear that they don't understand the legalities around service animals and being careful about how you approach those situations. I actually had a client that I co-hosted for a while who told me under no circumstances were there to be dogs on property because he's allergic and they use the vacation rental themselves. And I had to share with them, we actually have no control over that. If someone needs to bring a service animal, they can. And it would be a bigger issue for you to operate your vacation rental to other people if you made a stink about this. And so you can also tell other guests that if they want a truly pet-free or animal-free property, that you also can't guarantee that because there may have been a service animal on your property at some point in time, and there's just no way for you to know that or control it. But having a conversation like that is much more productive than just
accusatory.
Correct. All right, now let's go.
Let's move to the next
one. Okay. So Maggie says, we had an intruder break in and rob our house and stole guest things as well, thousands of dollars worth, and a firearm, and did property damage. Anyone know how to navigate getting this covered with insurance? Airbnb support sent me something to fill out, but it was all about when a guest harms your property, and that doesn't fit this situation since the guest was also a victim. Picture of the criminal just to post, for the post to have attention. Our first question was like, you went to a free Facebook group to ask this question?
You'd want to call your insurance. Well, first you'd want to call the police.
Right.
Number one, always get the report because your insurance is going to need that. Also, you want to make sure that your guest feels safe. And it sounds like there was a firearm involved also, which the plot thickens there. But yes, obviously, number one, always call the police first, and then immediately following that, absolutely call your insurance company. And this is why it is imperative that your insurance company knows, understands, and you are covered for short-term rental guests. Because this is going to be shocking to your insurance agent if this is the first time that they've heard that you are hosting overnight short-term guests at your property. And that would be insult to injury while you're trying to help this guest that unfortunately had their things stolen, your property was damaged, and now your insurance agent is finding out that this is what you're doing with your property.
And let's make a statement here, first of all. Annette and I are not licensed to give insurance advice. We don't sell insurance, right? All we know is that air cover that Airbnb provides is not enough. And
it's not insurance.
And it's not insurance.
It is not insurance in any way, shape, or form.
And I want to unpack this. Obviously, we get frustrated because we feel like we say this all the time, but obviously it's still something that confuses hosts. And we actually had a conversation with an insurance provider for short-term rentals. And this stuck with us when he said, air cover is not an insurance policy in your name, right? Like if you want to be covered for things that aren't minor damage to your property, that you need to have short-term rental insurance for your property because it's not only replacing this guest's stuff. What if the guest sues you because they didn't feel safe in your property? Maybe your windows weren't locked upon them checking in. Maybe, so many things that they could tell you that you didn't put into place to make them feel secure. And then what happens, right? And so those damages could go, they could go as high as someone's imagination could take it.
Right, whoever their ambulance chaser attorney. But this is where, again, you need to make sure that you are properly insured. That's why first of all, safety, making sure your home is safe. Unfortunately, this is terrible. It does happen, but going into the group to looking for support, and also the way that it is communicated to Airbnb is important too. If that's what you receive from them is a misunderstanding, you're going to want to reach back out and explain that more because the guest, it looks like Airbnb support wasn't helpful either. They thought the guest harmed the property.
Let's go over this a little bit. So if you were to submit a claim with air cover, it would cover something, for example, the guest broke a lamp, and that lamp cost you $150. You have the receipt for it. You send them a picture of the broken lamp. Maybe you send them a screenshot of the guest admitting fault, and then you send them a picture of the receipt of when you purchased the lamp and what the lamp costs today. Submit that all to AirCover, and then AirCover will decide. First of all, they don't have to reimburse you, and they'll decide whether or not they have enough evidence to reimburse you, either full or partial. We've even gotten reimbursed for guests smoking pot in the property. It's really hard to prove that someone has smoked something, the property smells a certain way, but this one instance we were able to get pictures of marijuana leaves on the nightstand and all that stuff after the guest checked out. We submitted it. We gave them the receipt from our cleaners charging more to remove that smell, and we were able to get reimbursed for it. So those smaller things, yes, we always say try air cover first and see how that goes over. But a situation like this where a guest safety was at risk and thousands of dollars was stolen from the property that didn't even belong to you, it belonged to your guest. Remember, you're a business, so you should have some sort of commercial insurance policy in place, and you need to reach out to your broker to see what that process is like.
And just to get this out there, it might not be worth it for you to file a claim.
Yeah.
So you also want to understand the implications of if you were to file that claim and have insurance pay for it. Obviously sometimes it's happened to me several times where it made more sense for me to pay out of pocket than to file the claim. I know it does stink, but it depends on what your deductible is. It depends on what that's going to do to your policy moving forward. So before you make that quick claim and it ends up impacting you maybe more financially than just paying out of pocket, you really want to have a full understanding for that.
One last piece of this that I just thought of is this is why we also encourage all of you to document what the property is like before the guest checks in. Because what this host didn't share with us is, when did the break-in happen? Was it after the guest checked in for the first night and the guest opened up the windows or left the front door unlocked? If you could document that, hey, we were the last ones in the property before the guest arrives and it is time-stamped and all the windows were locked, and at least having it documented via a checklist of some sort. I know it doesn't prove that you actually did it, but it's one step in the right direction. It might help you in this case as well, because you might want to find out, and again, ask your insurance company first, the best way to handle it, but having that document that you secured the property before the guest arrived, it might help you in this situation. All right, let's go on to the next free Facebook post that we want to dive into that got some really terrible responses, and honestly, it's just not a great question to ask in the first place. You can read this whole post yourself, but we'll highlight some of the key elements here, and honestly, the first sentence kind of tells it all. If you have a non-smoking policy, are you allowed to have a no curry cooking policy, since both odors are very difficult to remove, especially when you often have same-day guests? This post goes on to talk about all the different things they tried to get the scent out. They don't have a problem with people smoking, but they don't allow them to smoke in the home because our next guest doesn't want to smell cigarettes in the house. How can curry smell not be the same? I really need to find a solution for this, as this is one of the most stressful situations dealing with housekeeping. Annette, what are your thoughts?
How to deal with it is to just stop posting. It's unacceptable to say. Like that, there are so many different things that each and every one of us cook that someone might not like the smell of. Who is that to? Who are we to decide? Who are we to say a no cooking of certain products in the home? Let's say you're a vegetarian, you can't tell people not to cook meat in your home. I just
broccoli,
think this is one of bacon. I mean,
salmon, fish,
anything. So this is just, again, this is a time to. I see in that response, this is the most stressful thing for you. So the easiest way to just make this a non-stress is to just not welcome guests anymore to your home and turn it into a long-term rental or sell the house. This is something like, that's not acceptable to have something like that in place. I can't even imagine it, honestly.
It's hard to even respond to it, because here's what this person has done, actually. It's he or she, we don't know, but you are creating a targeted environment for guests at that point. It is not a welcoming or hospitable environment. And as you all know here at Thanks for Visiting channel, it is hospitality first. And creating a targeted environment is definitely not why we got into the business. And it just rips all sort of, I'm lost for words.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to even, but what we want to do here is we do want to recognize that at some point in time, let's just go back to smoke. There are some times that there's going to be a scent that you might want to remove from the home, and we do have some options for you. We have some notes here because we don't want to leave you hanging, because maybe there was something else that was cooked that you want to make sure that you can minimize, that we call it odor management. And so there are some things that you can do. Number one, extra turnover time, if you have it, if you can allow for it. If there isn't a guest checking in, of course, let your cleaners know that. Also, just having your cleaners back and prepping them with the tools that they need to. There are odor neutralizing products. If you have a green machine, it's really inexpensive. That can help do upholstery and rug cleaning. There's something called an ozone machine, which will also neutralize strong odors. We're gonna make sure that we have a link to, we have a video all about our favorite Amazon cleaning products, and we have the green machine, the ozone machine in there, so you can see how those are used. This host also said something like smelly candles. We also don't advise using any sort of scented anything.
Because, here's the thing. This person, again, just doesn't, she can't, it's hard for her to see outside looking in. Because for me, smelly candle, if I don't like that scent of the
It's
candle.
offensive also. Yeah, could be offensive.
Yeah. So
or you could be allergic.
Covering another scent with another scent is definitely not the way to go. I do want to preface, because if we don't preface this, you're going to put in the comments anyway, so we'll just get ahead of it. The ozone machine is controversial. Okay, so read all the manufacturer
be careful
instructions.
when you use it.
Be careful if and when you use it. I will tell you, it does work when guests do smoke marijuana. And here's the deal: you never know when you are going to walk in that property and there's going to be a strong smell that you have to get rid of that day.
You cannot be in there when it is in there at all. The ozone.
Oh yeah, no, you cannot. No, I mean, like, you never know. It's like, how do you prepare your cleaners for a quick turnover with a smell issue? You just have to always be prepared to tackle the odor issue, always. So if we have an ozone machine, we choose to use them. You don't have to, but we do, and we know how to use them safely. Our team has them on hand at all of our properties. The green machine, we have those on hand at most of our properties, or could bring it over. There's also extra turnover time, making sure we have actually not pivoted since COVID. Our checkout time is 10 a.m. and check-in time is 4 p.m. There are some hosts that offer 11 to 3 or different turnaround times like that, but we've found having more time to prep the space has always been good, and we just haven't changed back from that. And then other odor neutralizing products like activated charcoal or air purifiers to keep the space guest ready. Having those items on hand at all times can set you up for success. Okay, we have one more good one for you.
All right. This host wants to know, does anyone increase their cleaning fees during the holidays? So if your cleaners are charging more for your turnovers on those holidays, you charge your guests more. We do not have dynamic cleaning fees.
Nope.
Number one, I think it'd be very hard to manage on your calendar, like deciphering what time of the year you have a certain cleaning fee versus the other, and are there stays actually during those holidays. But we do absolutely believe that if your cleaner is working on a holiday and they request and they are charging more, that you do honor that. Think about anybody that's working on a holiday, whether it be in a hospital or just any retail worker, you can get holiday pay. And we think that the cleaners deserve that also. And in the grand scheme of things, hopefully your rate is increased over the holidays and you have some buffer in there to make sure that you're paying your cleaner more, but we don't charge the guest.
Let's take a little step back. You know, this host is asking this question with the holidays approaching, and we encourage all of you to have this conversation when you onboard your cleaner, because if you're probably, like us, have 1099 contractors or independent contractors here in the States, then they are their own business. That would be like, I don't know, going to Dairy Queen and saying, like, I don't want to pay that much for that cone today because it's actually pretty cold outside. Like, you can't say that. Like, Dairy Queen has set prices. So you really have to give your contracted vendors the respect they deserve and ask them, do your rates change at all throughout the year? Mm-hmm. Are there any days you don't work? There might be a cleaning team out there that actually they don't. Even though they are providing turnovers for short-term rentals, vacation rentals, maybe they have a policy they don't work on the holidays. And so instead of relying on them to give the information, you as a business owner, that's important for you to know, because they might expect you to get the guest in-house the day before the holiday and that they would check out the day after the holiday. Now, if that doesn't work with you and your goals for your property, then you might need to roll up your sleeves and get it done yourself. Maybe you want to find a backup for your backup when it comes to the cleaning team and see someone who does not mind cleaning on certain holidays. Not all cleaners celebrate all the holidays, so you might find someone. I would like to share that most cleaners in the industry of turning over short-term rentals understand weekends and holidays are actually some of the busiest times for them. And I think it's, unless there's someone who's just doing this as like a little side hustle, you will be surprised that you can most often work with cleaners on these holidays. But they might have a different cleaning rate, and that's something that you just discuss ahead of time. This is actually a really juicy topic, and we have a video all about how to hire your dream cleaner. And we even have in the show notes below freebie that walks you through important elements to have in your independent contractor agreement if your cleaner doesn't provide you with one. It is obvious with how big these Facebook groups get that hosts are hungry to communicate with each other. They really want to know what other hosts are doing in their businesses with similar situations, and we support all of that. Obviously, we're here sharing all this information and our feedback with you, but with these really big free online groups, oftentimes, even if the question is a great question, unlike some of these that we shared with you today, the responses can be toxic, not helpful, downright mean, because no one's monitoring these groups. there are associations, there are groups, there are memberships that you can join that have a healthy, monitored online group. We have one, of course, and we would love for you to join ours, but if we're not the right teachers for you, there are so many out there that could be really helpful to you. You want to vet them, ask them questions, but then get in there, join, learn, and give back. And it's a really great way to enhance your business, enhance yourself professionally, and actually you can make some lifelong friends talking to other hosts in the industry. But with that, I am Sarah Karakan.
I'm Annette Grant, and together we are
Thanks for visiting.